everybody, Stephanie from Sarcastic Sewist here. I am back sewing up some of this beautiful fabric today. I am hacking a beautiful shirt, this crop top that I'm wearing right here, from one of my favorite patterns. It is from the Not Your Average shirt from 5 out of 4 Patterns, which typically comes in a shirt or a dress length, and then it has a couple of sleeve options. So I'm obviously hacking it to be a crop top. I also changed the shape of the sleeve. I wanted more of a cap sleeve, just to be nice and cool for summer. And I have to say, I kind of want to hack this to be a swim top. I think this would be really cute with some high-waisted swim bottoms, maybe some ruching. Maybe leave the sleeves off altogether unless you're looking for that shoulder coverage. Line it, throw some elastic in there, and this would be such a cute swim top. So we're just going to go through how to hack this crop today. I have my pieces all cut out here. I have my back, which I did end up cutting instead of on the fold. I put a seam there and I've already seamed that together. And that was just because I have just 1 yard of this beautiful fabric, which I need to talk about. This beautiful, it's a cotton lycra. It looks like sparkles, but it's so easy to work with. It's so much easier than things that have actual sparkle in them or sequins or anything like that you're gonna have to work around on a machine. So I cut out the back on the with the seam in the back, and I already sewed that. I have my 2 front pieces from the pattern just as they are in the pattern, and then I cut my 2 sleeves with the hack. So let's talk about the sleeve hack first. This is a sleeve that is cut on the fold. So all I did to hack this into this little cap sleeve is draw a little arch in my sleeve. I didn't have to worry about it being symmetrical because it being cut on the fold, I was only doing the alteration to 1/2 and then cutting it symmetrically, which is great. And I just eyeballed it. I knew what I wanted for my seam so that I had a little bit of enough room to do a seam under the arm. And then that's about it. I just did a nice gentle arch and my sleeves were ready. And then for the back piece, obviously the back that comes in the pattern is much longer than the back that I have cut here. So all I did, and you would need to do this to your size because I have cut out the bonus extra cup pieces so that I have coverage for my ladies. So all I did was I measured this edge over here and this edge right here, and I subtracted out the seam allowance from where we'll connect them, and that is how deep I cut the side, and it's perfect for me. It's gonna let me do a fun trick to hem it and have a beautiful side seam. So the first thing in construction here, if you didn't cut your back on the fold, is to seam that back seam. But if you cut it on the fold as the pattern piece, then you are ready to just attach these at the shoulder. That's going to be our first step. So I'm just going to clip that and sew the shoulder seams. So that was easy enough. I have it connected right at the shoulder seams, right sides together. I do like to sew my shoulder seams both from the neckline out toward the outside of the arm. I find that if my fabric is going to shift, that way it at least shifts evenly if I'm not being super cautious. So I do like to sew those both from the inside out. The next step is actually hemming. So I need to hem this entire neckline. On the shirt, when you make this per pattern, you only have to hem down to about here where you have what would be a completed neckline. But because I am not attaching anything underneath, I want that finished all the way down the neckline. So I'm just going to add some clips here all the way down the neckline and take that to my cover stitch to hem. So you can see that I have hemmed all the way along the front, across the back, and then back down to the other side of the front. So the next step is actually going to be to do the front knot, which looks really complicated and it looks really scary and challenging, but it's actually really, really easy. So you just want to take one of your front pieces and lay it right side up and then throw the other one right over the top. And I kind of like to center it a little bit. The pattern has you mark this center bit on the pattern. I don't actually do that. I find that it comes together really well if I just follow these next few steps and not worry about it. So I want to kind of squish this together, this other front piece together, the one I'm not going to start with, but I want it to all remain right sides up. I want to minimize the space, but make sure that I don't have it all folded over itself. because I'm going to be lining up right sides here in a minute, and I just want that to be as easy as possible and for me to be as confident that it's correct as possible. So I'm going to grab some clips, and I am going to flip this first. This is the right front piece. This is the left front piece. So I'm going to flip the right front piece over on itself, right sides together. And you can see that my left front piece flipped over, but because of how I stack that, I'm confident that it is still right sides up appropriately where I need it to be. And when I do this to kind of clip a couple more here, I'm really confident that that isn't shifting too much. So it's still where I need it to be for this next step, which is to take the left front piece and do that very same thing. So you want that to be right sides together, but you don't want any twists in that fabric that are hidden in all of this bunchiness in the middle. That's the part that's a little bit intimidating, I think. Is you want to make sure that in this loop where you've got this, that the left front does not have any folds or twists or anything in it. You want it to just be right sides together with a little bit of the right front in between the layers, because that is how you create the magic of the knot. So I am just going to keep clipping toward the center, and you don't want to stretch either piece of your front piece. You just want a 1-to-1 ratio here, and you want to clip as close as possible to the other side. So you really want to get as small of a hole there as possible. This does leave a very small hole in your shirt. So the closer you can get in, the smaller that hole is, because this is obviously not a professional attire shirt. I'm not super worried about how small that hole is per se. I obviously would still like to minimize it, but I'm not worried enough that I'm going to take it to my sewing machine after my serger and do any follow-up stitching. I'm just going to put on my serger, stitch as close as I can to the other piece without causing a hole in the fabric with my knife, and be done. So I've put just as many clips as I can to get as close to that center knot as possible on each side. And if I flip this right sides out, you can kind of see it coming together. I'll need to do some shifting of my fabric once I'm done with this, but this is going to be my knot. So I'm going to take this to my machine and stitch these 2 seams on my serger. And actually, I'm a batch sewer, and I am also a bad sewer, in that I really like installing my sleeves flat when it's a knit fabric. I know all about like the dominant seams and all of that, and I just gotta say, it doesn't make enough of a difference visually to me to deal with inserting a sleeve in the round when I could just install it right now. And since I am a batch sewist, I really like to just have all of my seams ready that are sewable. So I'm actually going to also clip my sleeves in place, and when I take the front knot to the machine, I'm also going to stitch the sleeves in place. So just stitching these, I'm not stitching, this is clipping. I'm clipping these seams, and I'll clip the other sleeve as well, and just go to the machine and stitch those 4 seams, and then I'll come right back to do the next step. So we have our knot and our sleeves attached, and I've just done a little bit of fiddling just to get this knot to sit pretty. And just kind of wiggle it and do a little light tugging to get it to lay where you want it to lay. And you can definitely do that. Sometimes it's just a little bit easier once it's on your bust, when it's not just pulling against itself, but it has something to support it a little bit. And if you're not super happy with how close to the other side you got, you can take that to your regular machine and just sew a couple of extra stitches. Just be cautious, because this is a very stretched area. As you can see, it's under a lot of pressure. So you do want to make sure your stitches are very secure, and they're not going to pop when you pull it over your head. And you can also do that at the very end. You can try it on and fiddle with it, and if you're still not happy, I could take this shirt off right now and take it to the machine and add a couple of stitches if I wanted to, because that construction is not going to affect anything else that we're doing. So the next step is to sew the side seams. And I've got a really cool hemming trick here that I just think gives it a really beautiful finish that I just adore. So I always start at the underarm seam and throw a clip right there, so that's nice and even. I'm coming down, I'm going to throw a clip right at this bust seam right here, and then this should not match up. So you remember when I did the measuring and we took out the length of this seam allowance from the total length, and then we used that to calculate the back. Well, we've already hemmed the front. Let me lay this so you can actually see it. We've already hemmed the front, so the front is about a ½ an inch shorter than the back, which is exactly what we want. What we want to do is we want to line that up along the edge, and you can see that this fabric it's a cotton lycra, and it's curling just a little bit. That's totally okay. When I'm at my machine, that'll be really easy to control with my presser foot and my blade, or my fingers, whatever it is that I need to use. So I'm not super worried about that. I just want to make sure I'm not stretching this at all. So I want to make sure that when flat and not stretched, those are the same length, because I do want that to be nice and even. And then come down to the bottom right here. And this is the back sticking out. I just want to flip that up over the front and clip it in place. And then when I serge this, instead of, because you could hem the back, just like when you did the front. At the same time, you could hem the back as well. But then I find that I don't like the connection right here at the side seam. I don't like the two hemmed coming together and having that serge seam right there. So this, once we flip it all out, we'll automatically roll the back seam allowance to the back while containing the side seam in the seam beautifully. And then I just have to do another row of hemming at that point, and it's so beautiful. So that is what I like to do. I'm going to clip this other side seam and take it to the machine to serge. Fantastic. So I have my side seams done, and I'm actually going to try to come a little bit closer to show you this. So this is the back seam hem. This is the front, and you can see that when I flip this out, it's seriously like magic. When I flip this out, it automatically pulls up that back hem. There we go. It automatically pulls up that back hem and folds it, so I just need to top stitch, just like I did on the front. And it's so magical. Let me show you the other side too, just in case I failed at showing that on this side. So you start, hang on, where even am I? So you start with the back hem folded over the front hem, and this is my side seam. It's upside down for you guys. And as you open it out, it just automatically pulls out that seam. My seam stitching is hidden completely, and I'm just gonna top stitch along this back seam to finish the hem, and it's gonna look so good. I'm so excited by this because it's so easy. It's literally like the easiest hemming choice ever, but it still hides my side seams how I want them to be hidden, so they're not poking out on my garment, which is just perfect. So that is actually the next step, is I'm going to hem the bottom, I'm going to hem the sleeves, and then my shirt's going to be ready for me to rock it. So I'm going to quick hop over and do that, and then I'll be back. That's it. So we have a beautifully finished hemline on the back of our shirt, which is pretty dang seamless into the hemline on the front of the shirt. Our sleeves are hemmed, and we are ready to try this on and make sure that it fits. I can't wait. Okay, so this is the finished hacked 5 out of 4 knot tee. You can ignore the neighbor's dog barking. They do that all the time. So I really like how this turned out. I think it's the perfect top. I'll probably wear this for any Memorial Day celebrations that might happen. Definitely for 4th of July. I am just really happy with how it turned out. I hope you like it as well. You can get this pattern at 5 out of 4 Patterns, and I will link that below. And this fabric is available from Bread and Candy Customs for pre-order right now, so I will link that below as well. Be sure to check me out at sarcasticsewist.com, and have a great day.